everyone, it's Hailey, and today I wanted to talk about what your favorite books are of all time. Bookmas this year, I put out this survey asking you guys for your favorite book of 2021, and it was super interesting. And in that video, I had mentioned that I really wanted to do it for like favorite books of all time. So I finally did that, and I made a little Google form survey, and I also improved upon the last one because the last time I just got the information, but I didn't really have any comments or anything. But this time I have asked you guys for your favorite book and your least favorite book, and also why. So there will be a little bit more to go off of, and I think the results are really interesting. But I did ask you guys to just pick one favorite book of all time, which I know is really hard, but it's just for like the sake of compiling the data. If you have more than one, then I'll only see the one because I alphabetize it, and that's how I count it out. So if you put like this book and then comma that book, I'm not going to see all of them. So I'm sorry. I know a lot of people hate that like I made you pick one favorite book, but it's fine. It's not the end of the world. I do understand. I can't even really pick one favorite book, but it's just for the sake of this interesting video. Like, I thought it was very cool to look at what your favorite books are. So let's just get into that. So if you see me looking over to the right, it's because I have my computer here, so then I can like read the actual comments that you guys left. I was trying to do it on my phone, but it just wasn't working out, so we're just gonna do it this way. I just wanted to take a second to thank the sponsor for today's video, Function of Beauty. I've worked with Function of Beauty so many times in the past because I really love their products. I've probably been using them for, oh my gosh, probably like more than 2 years now, which is crazy, but I love their shampoo and conditioner. So if you guys are unfamiliar with Function of Beauty, it is a custom hair care brand. All you have to do is take a 5-minute quiz, you select your hair type, like build your little hair profile there, then you pick your 5 hair goals. For my 5 hair goals, I chose frizz control, curl definition, lengthening, deep conditioning, and shine. You also get to pick your scent, and I actually switched it up. I usually do peach and mandarin, but I tried the coconut one this time, and it is so good. I really love it. It's perfect for summer. And you get to customize it even further by picking the colors. So I picked this nice blue and yellow, which I also felt like were perfect for summer, and you can put your name on the bottle. So mine just say Function of Hailey on it, which just makes me smile. Function of Beauty is such a great product because it is sulfate-free, paraben-free, cruelty-free, and vegan. It also is dermatologist tested, so you know it's not going to irritate your scalp. Everyone's hair is unique, and Function of Beauty really takes that into account, and it's just an all-in-one product. I have loved using it because I can pick the things that matter the most for me and my hair and get it all in one go. Actually 2 goes if you count like shampoo and conditioner, but it's basically 1 go. Since I've started using Function of Beauty, I've noticed that my hair has felt so much softer and shinier and just seemed overall a lot healthier. So if you guys wanted to try out Function of Beauty's top-rated hair care duo, I definitely recommend checking the link in my description box down below. Through that link, you can get 20% off of your first set of custom hair care. So when you get the 16-ounce set and become a member, you will get free shipping and 20% off, which is such a great deal. So definitely click that link in my description box down below. And thank you so much to Function of Beauty for sponsoring today's video. By the way, I don't think I mentioned it, but I will be doing probably next week the video about the worst books of all time according to you guys, so stay tuned for that. But I am going to be counting down to the like most mentioned favorite book of all time in this video because I think that's really fun. By the way, if you were curious, there were 2,107 responses in total, and thank you to everyone who participated in this. It is just, I think this is really fun. So I could like maybe do it by genre in the future if that would be something that you guys would be interested in. But first book that we have to talk about today is The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. This had 10 people saying it was their favorite book of all time, and I would say that this is one of my favorite books of all time. I think it is absolutely such an incredible book. I love it. Personally, I think this book was really emotional and touching, and as someone who has a sister, it meant a lot to me. And I also love historical fiction, so it definitely is one that stands out to me, and I can understand why people would say this is a favorite of theirs because it is one of those books that just like leaves you with an impression. So some things that some people had to say about it: someone said it's a World War II historical fiction, what is there not to love? Which is so true. I definitely really agree with that. It was a immersive and informative about the setting, which is occupied France. I definitely agree with that. And also made this person have 2 of the worst emotional breakdowns in their life. I'm really sorry for that, but I can completely understand why. Like, it is such a devastating and heartbreaking story, but so beautiful at the same time. I also really enjoyed this comment. You feel like you're a part of the story. It is so well written and it takes you through every type of emotion. Emotion is definitely something that's coming up in a lot of these responses, and I think that's really valid because it is a book that tugs on your heartstrings and has so many different emotions to it and makes you feel something, which I think is why it is such a favorite for people. Next, we have 2 books that are tied, which each had 12 people saying that it was their favorite. So the first one is Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief by Rick Riordan. I think this is a book that made so many people fall in love with reading, so I can see why it would come up on this list. Personally, I think I was a little bit older when I read it and it just wasn't really my taste. Like, I did enjoy it, don't get me wrong, but I think I had known that so many people loved it and it just kind of was something that I had outgrown at that point. But that being said, I did still really like it. I do particularly love this comment that someone left. It helped me during a difficult time in my life. It was a way to leave the bad time and explore something good. I think that's really nice, and that's something that really makes a book your favorite, because I love asking this question because, like, I say this quite often, but everyone reads a different book. Depending on where you are in your life, like even you, when you read one book, you could read it one time and hate it, but then read it another time and love it, because it really depends on who you are in that moment, and that's what makes reading so personal. And I think that's very fascinating, and that comment just like hits the nail on the head. A lot of people are also talking about how that book, like I said, is the one that got them into reading, and it's funny, adventurous. It's really something that I think appeals to a vast variety of people. Like this person said, the Percy Jackson series as a whole made them the reader that they are today. That's just so lovely. I really like this video. I feel like the worst books one isn't going to be as fun, but still, I really like this. Next, with 12 people also saying it was their favorite, is Clockwork Princess by Cassandra Clare. This is the final book of the Infernal Devices trilogy, and some of the other books in the Infernal Devices trilogy did show up here a little bit. I was kind of surprised. I don't think that City of Bones is on this list at all. No, it's not. So this is the only book by Cassandra Clare that made its way onto this list, which is kind of interesting when you think about it. But the nostalgia is definitely something that is commented on quite a bit. And then this person says, everything is perfect. Plot, best couple, Will Herondale, the best characters, full surprises, the setting of 19th century London, and then ... because obviously they could go on and on about everything that they loved about it. And once again, commenting on the time that they read it, because of the time I was reading it, it was so peaceful and I was so happy. The characters feel like home and it's comforting. I just love like seeing why you guys love these books. I don't have the same passionate feelings about Clockwork Princess. I almost said Prince, but I do think it was a really solid book, and it is one of my like favorites by Cassandra Clare. So I can see why it has such appeal. I do really love these characters. Actually, there's definitely more than 2 books that are tied with 12 people saying it's their favorite. So next up is Anne of Green Gables by L.M. Montgomery, which also has 12 people saying that it is their favorite book of all time. And that makes my little Canadian heart happy. I really love Anne of Green Gables. I think it is so fun. I hated the TV show and movies as a kid. I was really bored. Like, my mom loved watching all of those kinds of shows about that time period. She watched Anne of Avonlea, or not Anne of Avonlea, her name's Sarah in it, but Road to Avonlea is what it's called. She would watch all of those shows and I found them so boring when I was a kid. But then when I finally read Anne of Green Gables, I fell in love, and now I love those things. I think I was just like, I was a kid, so I was just bored by it. So Anne of Green Gables is another one that childhood nostalgia is commented on quite a bit, which is definitely something I can agree with. And this person mentions the wholesome and cottagecore vibe, which definitely, if you're into cottagecore, this is a book that you should be reading. Like, totally fits it. Someone else said that they remember reading it with their grandparents when they were really young, and that is such a sweet memory. I'll just read a couple more. Honestly, I could go on and on because these comments are so nice, but we have another comment that says, the hope it brings, it's an endearing story, and they had such a wonderful time reading it. And then the last comment that I'll read is, it's the first book I ever loved and I relate to it a lot. Also, it's their favorite because it's the book that made them want to be a writer one day. And I think that just says it all. I think this is probably like the most wholesome video that I've ever done, and I definitely am going to have to do it more because it's so sweet. And the final book that 12 people also said is their favorite is Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe by Benjamin Elier-Senez. So personally, I didn't really like this book. I didn't mesh with the writing that much. I preferred this author's other book, but I do see why so many people love this book. And definitely, like, I haven't even typed it in to look at the comments yet, but I know that something that is going to be mentioned a lot is the writing style. It's very lyrical and beautiful, and like, I thought the author did a great job with the writing. It just personally, I didn't really mesh with the story. And I guess it's not even the story, it's like, I just found it to be kind of slow, and it just, I don't know. So the first comment that I can see is, I can't even explain it. This book just means so much to me and I don't have words for it, which I think is really valid, because sometimes when you love a book so much, it can be really hard to put words to that. Like I said, a lot of people, the writing, that's what they're commenting on. Someone said that it makes them feel seen, and I think that is so important, and that's what they put, because that really is something that means a lot to people, obviously. But you see the impact that like such a diverse story like that has, and I think that's amazing. Next, with 13 people saying that it's their favorite, is Where the Crawdads Sing, and I think this is by Delilah Owens. I haven't actually personally read this book yet, but I was surprised to see that, like, I know it's really popular, but I was just surprised to see how many people said that it is their absolute favorite book of all time. I know it's coming out as an adaptation soon, so I will probably end up watching that, but there's a lot of comments on the vibes of it and like the atmosphere, which is really interesting, because from what I know of the book, it's not really one that I would expect to have vibes or an atmosphere so much, but I guess it does. The main character is also said to be really lovable, and apparently there's a plot twist that a lot of people didn't see coming. Next, with 14 people saying it was their favorite, is Radio Silence by Alice Oseman. This is a book that meant so much to me, and I really love Radio Silence. I think it's a fantastic book, and I think it's a really important one too. I haven't talked about it much recently, but it's definitely one that, like, around when I read it, I just kept on recommending it, because I think for high school students or anyone who's in that age where you have to make a lot of decisions about your future and like your education and what you want to do with your life, I think that Radio Silence tackles a lot of those subjects in a great way. The representation is definitely something that meant a lot to people in this book, and they also really enjoyed what I was talking about, which is the like school might not be for you kind of aspect that it tackles. A lot of people speak about how this book means the world to them. It was the first time that they felt seen, and it was exactly the book that they needed as they were struggling with their identity. And like, that just shows how important this book is. With 15 people saying is their favorite book of all time is Caraval by Stephanie Garber, and that actually kind of surprised me. I've read Caraval and I did really like it, but I don't think it's one of my favorite books. I think it was just a really solid fantasy story, but a lot of people really enjoyed it. So people love the characters and the romance, but I think the main thing that's commented on is the world and the magic of it. People are commenting on how that like allowed them to get sucked into this whimsical, magical atmosphere and allowed them to escape whatever was going on in their life at the time. So it made them just completely fall in love with the book. Also, someone said that this isn't an intelligent answer, but the book is so whimsical and the writing is so pretty that they love rereading it. But that's not an unintelligent answer. That's a very valid thing. I say all the time about how books are whimsical, and that's why I love rereading it. I think that's completely a valid point. Next is Beartown by Frederick Bachman. I remember when this book came out, a lot of people were talking about it, and now 17 people have said it was their favorite book of all time. And I haven't personally read it. It's not exactly my thing, but I do see the appeal in it. I know even from reading this that it's definitely a very touching and emotional story and kind of a darker story. I do know the plot line for it, which is also kind of why I've stayed away from reading it, but this comment says, it shows that one single act of violence does not just change the life of the victim only, but has the potential to upend the lives of so many people, and in this case, the whole town. And I think knowing what that book is about, like, that's really a very well encapsulating comment. People love the characters and how the book made them feel a lot, and I think the main thing seems to be the characters in this book are what people have fallen in love with and the complexities of them. Also, with 17 people saying it's their favorite, is The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. I really enjoy The Hunger Games. I feel like, I don't know if it would be a favorite now because it's been so long since I've read it that it's kind of hard to say, but I do think it's like a really well done dystopian book. So lots of people have said that they love the characters and it's very real and raw about terrible things instead of glorifying them, which I think is very true. And kind of similarly to Percy Jackson, this is also the book that got a lot of people into reading, which doesn't surprise me at all. I actually accidentally skipped one, so we did skip a spot, but with 16 people saying it was their favorite is Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. Personally, I do really enjoy Little Women, but I kind of have some negative memories attached to it, which I think that that video will be up after this one, but I talked about that in my ranking adaptations video. We just received some like bad news while watching a Little Women adaptation, and because of that, it ruins the story a little bit for me, but I do still I think Little Women is a really solid story. So a lot of people say that it's a comfort read for them, cozy, they love the characters, the relationships, it's wholesome, entertaining, pretty much just everything about it is what everyone is saying that they love. Next, with 18 people saying it is their favorite, is The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. I wish I loved The Night Circus. I've tried many times, but the writing didn't really mesh with me. Or not even really the writing, but it was kind of a similar thing to, Aristotle and Dante, where it's such a beautiful story. The writing is absolutely incredible, the atmosphere, everything, but the story just moves a little bit slow for my personal taste. But not surprising at all, people are talking about how immersive the story is and atmospheric, and the writing is absolutely beautiful. And this person in particular, I like their comment of saying that the setting and the world building is their favorite. They feel like they can wander around in the circus in their head even after they finish the book. And I can understand that. This video is going to be so long because I still have a lot of books to talk about, so I really apologize. I probably should have made the list shorter, but I didn't. So next up is Perks of Being a Wallflower by, what's his name? I can't think because I'm too, Stephen Chbosky. So Perks is definitely a book that I have read and really loved, and a lot of other people did. This is one that resonates with a lot of people. This person says it resonates with them in a way that no other book does. And it's a book that a lot of people can relate to. They felt very connected to it, and this person in particular, this is lovely. So it is the book that connected them with one of their best friends, and it's a book that they felt forever changed. They felt that they were forever changed after reading. I just love hearing all these reasons. Tied with that actually is It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. I'm kind of surprised that there wasn't more Colleen Hoover on this list, but there wasn't. And I did read this book recently for my Colleen Hoover reading vlog, and I did like it. I don't think I enjoyed it as much as everyone else, but I was kind of pleasantly surprised by it. So people love the characters. They found the story to be very emotional and realistic, and it's a book that stuck with them and they wanted to read it again. So it's a book that deals with abuse, if you didn't know that, but I do think that this in particular is a really interesting comment. So I always thought if it ever happened to me, I'd leave that very second, but reading this book was eye-opening for this person and made them realize that it isn't that simple as just leave. And I think that is the main message that this book does a really good job of getting across. We're actually jumping quite a bit here because next is 28 people, while the other one was 22, but 28 people said that Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen is their favorite, and I think it's so funny. This is the only classic, really. I mean, Anne of Green Gables as well, but other than that, there were no other classics that really came up quite a bit. But Pride and Prejudice is a story that, so many people love, and I do really love Pride and Prejudice. So people love the romance, and of course it is, as this person says, it is the OG hate to love romance, and I know so many people really love that trope as well. But it's a timeless story, the brooding love interest, commentary on societal expectations, dry mundane humor, Regency era, and the pining. So I can see why this has so much love around it. And it clearly really is timeless, as so many people said it was their favorite. Next up, 30 people said that A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J Maas is their favorite. So this in particular is the second book of the Court of Thorns and Roses series, and this one is definitely the one that people have obviously really loved the most since it came up so much. But this is kind of the book that changed the series forever, so I do get it. So people love love the romance in the plot line, and as this person says, it is everything that they like in a book: adventure, action, romance, and plot twists. And really, I think it's the like combination of romance and adventure and that fantastical romance that so many people have loved. Next up is Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and this had 33 people saying that is their favorite. I love this person's comment. They say that it's a comfort read that uplifts them whenever they're feeling low. It's something they can read over and over and still feel like the first time, and it makes them feel something every time that they read it. I have read this book twice now and really loved it both times reading it, and I read it twice like in very quick succession. I can see why people wouldn't love this book as much as one of her other books in particular, but I personally just fell in love with this book, and it made me fall in love with her writing too. The characters and the setting and the plot line are definitely, I know that pretty much is everything that makes up a book, but like the characters and the time period, I mean, and the relationships between the characters, I guess more so, I mean, that's what makes up the plot, but you get what I mean. I think the characters are definitely the main thing people are commenting on. Like, there's really complex characters, and it's a story that is in a different format that they loved, and it made them all very emotional. 33 people also said that Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller was their favorite. So I haven't read this book yet. I've read Circe by Madeline Miller, but I still have Song of Achilles and I need to read it. But I know it's very well beloved. Like, I know there's definitely so many people out there who have absolutely loved this book so much. And the writing is something that's commented on, and that it is like the love story, like the ultimate love story. As this person says, it is love personified. It's definitely one that I really need to read. And people love the Greek mythology. They love how sad it made them. I think we all just want something to like make us feel something, which makes it seem like we're dead inside, but maybe I am. I don't think everyone is, but I understand when a book like makes you feel something, it sticks with you. Speaking of a book that made me feel something, next up, 36 people said that The Book Thief by Marcus Zuzak is their favorite book of all time. If I had to pick one, I would probably pick The Book Thief as my favorite book of all time. It just like left an imprint on my soul. I adore it so much, so I'm glad that it was on this list. However, it is another book that is written with like kind of a different, interesting format that I know doesn't really mesh with everyone, so I understand if you don't like it, which people always apologize to me, but like 0% offended. So people are talking about how captivating it is, and it's enjoyable but sad, and they can read it over and over again without getting bored. The writing, gripping, heartbreaking story. It's morbid, but they just completely fell in love with it, and I agree with that. Next up, 38 people said that The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab is their favorite book of all time. I haven't gotten the chance to read this one yet, but I really, really want to. I know so many people have like, this book definitely has very varied opinions, where people seem to either kind of like love it or hate it. I think this was the #1 book that people read this year, or at least it was on that list in that Bookmas video that I did. But however, I think it was also the #1 like most hated book of last year as well from that other video that I did. So it's kind of interesting. People seem to have really connected and related to Addie in particular, and loved the characters overall and the storytelling. And I think really like the identification with Addie seems to be the main thing that people love. So now we're down to the final 2 books, and I think the first one might surprise you. It kind of surprised me. I thought these two would maybe be reversed. Like, I knew it was going to be up there, but I was surprised by how high it was up there. So in the #2 spot, we're taking a pretty big jump. So with 57 people saying that it was their favorite book of all time, is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I thought this was going to be the #1 book, to be honest, if I was like kind of trying to guess, but it did come in at #2, and 57 is still a lot of people. People have loved the writing. They love the old Hollywood setting. They love Evelyn Hugo and all the characters and the relationships. To read a couple of comments here, it is the first book that someone said made them feel seen as a bisexual woman. Her mom and her are super close, and she got her to read it to just understand her more, and she ended up loving it, and her mom ended up loving it, and it's become one of her favorite books too. So it has a lot of sentimentality connected to them for it, and I think that's just lovely. Another person said, I love how Taylor Jenkins Reid writes about characters with so much depth, which is very true. I love how Evelyn Hugo is such a morally gray character that you just can't help but adore, admire her power, understand why she does certain things, and ship her with Celia, which is also true. And to finish it off with one last comment about Evelyn Hugo, someone said that it ruined every other book for them, which is really funny. They always want characters to be queer now. So finally, the moment that you've been waiting for, the #1 mentioned book is Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo, and this had 70 people saying it was their favorite book of all time. Like I said, I thought this was going to be on the list. I just didn't expect it to be as high as it was, and I love Six of Crows. Crooked Kingdom in particular is more of my favorite, but I get why people love it. The characters, definitely something that a lot of people are mentioning because the characters are incredible. People love the execution of the found family trope and talk about how the book has so many elements that they love. The plot of the book, everything about it is just immaculate. The banter, as this person says, it did what no other book ever did apart from one to me. It completely transported me to its world and made me forget my tendency of looking at the number of pages. It does just like completely suck you in. So the characters are relatable. This person literally just says, I mean, Kaz Brecker, which is like, that's a valid reason. So I'm going to leave it there, but I hope you guys enjoyed this video as much as I did. It was so much fun to film. Thank you once again for sharing your favorite and least favorite, but that will be in another video, books, and thank you for sharing your reasoning too. I know some of you guys were really personal with them and it was really interesting. But thank you so much for watching today's video, and I will see you in another new one soon. Bye!